All right. Well, welcome to the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. I'm pretty pumped. I don't know why, Rod. It seems like it's been a long time since I've hosted a call. It's only been 3 weeks, which is typical, but when Rachel jumps in, I miss a week. So, anyways, here I am. Excited.
Good to see you.
Yeah. All right. Look, if you're not listening to our podcast right now, I would highly recommend jumping on and listening to some of those shows. Rod and I recorded one last week that I need to get up. I need to get it edited and up. I was out of town for the last 4 days, so I didn't get a chance to do it. But I'm pretty excited about the topics that we're covering. They're not easy topics. And I believe that they add a tremendous amount of value to business and what we're doing. So don't miss those. Those are just added value. And if you have a topic, I'd love to hear from you. Everybody here has my number. So text me the topic because we'll cover that too and have some fun with it. I think it'd actually be fun to hear your topic being discussed on the podcast in depth and maybe some solutions or just maybe authenticating what the decisions that you've already made. So there you go. Tonight, we are talking about shared values. And that is also identifying and connecting with your market. And the interesting thing about this topic, and I just think it wasn't intentional because I know how Rod does the topics. It landed on me, but this is a topic that I'm absolutely the most passionate about. And Heidi, you might have to put your video back on. I don't care if you're eating dinner or not. Anyways, you don't have to. But I'm going to give you a quick story, and I'm not going to give any names just to protect the innocent. You can eat in front of me. It's all right. I had a great weekend. It was a men's retreat, faith-based men's retreat. And in those circumstances, as you can guess, we're allowed to be vulnerable with one another, and hopefully we're authentic and we're making strides within that. And there was a gentleman there that came to me afterwards, and he wanted to talk about mentorship and how I could help him. So again, without total details, by the way, we're going to get to the values perspective, but I want you to hear how important these are and how they'll play a role in your life through this particular story. So this gentleman was married and decided that he didn't want to be married anymore and filed for divorce, upset the wife. She had no idea that was coming, right? Not cool. And then he realized, oh my gosh, the error of my ways, and called the court, called his lawyer, tried to stop it. And by the way, the judge happened to be off for a week and the papers weren't officially filed. So therefore the divorce wasn't official and he was able to stop it. Calls his wife and he says, hey, I stopped the divorce. She says, you're out of your mind. You're an idiot. I don't love you anymore. I don't know why you do that. And there ensued like the restructure of their relationship. Now, over a period of time, they got back together. And now they are living in this person's description, the best they've ever been. The best they've ever been. Okay. And this gentleman, they live in Florida, and his newer job, the last couple of years since they've reconciled, his newer job used to be a fireman. Now he is a fireman for an oil company, oil refinery company. He flies from Florida to the North Bank of Alaska, the most remote place on probably the planet, for 2 weeks at a time, then flies back home. Okay. That's not really a great scenario for a reconciled marriage, but so far they've worked it out. Now he's coming to me for advice on his next move. Again, they live in Florida. There's an opportunity to work for a fire department in the state of Washington. Now, Washington might as well be Alaska because it's almost the same amount of distance from Florida. I said, oh, that's great. Are you guys moving to Washington? He says, no, she's staying in Florida. They said I can work there for a week and then, go home wherever I live and then go back. There's a lot of guys doing that, right? And so I said, look, man, when we are trying to establish what our goals are in life, and we've talked about this in this community, when we talk about what our goals are, I've asked that everybody align your goals with your personal values. And just as a reminder, my values in order: God, family, giving back, health, time to do all that stuff. And the last one's business, right? And I think people will oftentimes say very quickly and easily that their values are God and family first. So I asked this man, I said, well, what are what's important to you? God and family, obvious. All right, so you're looking at a job in Washington. You've been given a mulligan by your wife, and now you're living the best life possible with her. And you're looking for a job in the state of Washington, and she's going to stay in Florida while you're working a week at a time and flying back. How is that living by your values? How is that aligning what's important to you in order and creating an environment that satisfies your relationship and your family? And so what I proposed to him, I said, what happens when your wife gets a call at 12:30 in the morning, her best friend got in a car crash and is on, critical care unit, and she needs her husband, the one that she gave a mulligan to 3 years ago? You're in Washington. How are you there for her, counseling her, being supportive of her, taking care of her needs because she's hurting because her friend is in ER, or her parent, or her brother, or her sister? Where are your values aligning with what's most important to you? And in this case, already identified, family. And I said, don't they have any fire departments in Florida? And if this is the most important value to you, what does it matter what you do for work? You've been given a mulligan for this relationship that you said is the best it's ever been. Why not just do whatever you can do to be as close as possible to your wife? And I use this illustration because I want to emphasize the point in a personal way, how important values should be to the decisions that you make in business. And so when we talk about identifying and connecting to your market in business based on your values, what does that look like? We just talked about somebody in the group getting their real estate license. I got mine 6 months ago, right? I've built my business around my values, and I aspire for those values to be conveyed through this new business that I have in real estate. I want the market to understand what's important to me and why they should work with me, why I'm the right person for them or not the right person for them, because I'm showcasing my values on my literature, on my website, on my business card, the way I speak, the way I present myself, the way I conduct myself around others. All those things that I do in the marketplace are conveying my values because I know what they are. I've already established them, and it's my job to make sure that I've done a good job conveying those values to the people that want to work with me or the people that I work with. How do we apply that to other arenas? I'll use, again, somebody on the call. Alex, sorry. Or not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Alex is a professional racer, instructor, coach, builder of race cars, probably a little bit of everything. How do we showcase our values in an industry that seems a little black and white, maybe a little mechanical or a lot mechanical, right? Where do we showcase what's important to us in that business? And I would venture to say that there's probably a dozen or more ways to do that, right? And so to give some examples, how do you conduct yourself with your sponsors? How do you present your program, your race program to your sponsors? This is what's important to me. How do you give them value for value from your race team to the sponsor and say, hey, this is a partnership. The partnership is important to me. So therefore, we are going to give it an emphasis in our program, right? Because, and I know this, I've been in that industry for a long time. Glad that you're the example on the call, Alex. I've worked with a lot of sponsors, and I've also been around a lot of race teams that just expect, because I've got a race car and an ego the size of Texas, that I should be given money to go out there and do what I love and race around a roundy round and maybe win, maybe not. And so I deserve the money, I deserve the sponsorship. But that's not how you approach that. You approach that with a value for value proposition, putting their value, their money, their investment, their goals first, so that when you can deliver for them, they've seen, hey, this is a good partnership. And by the way, we love that Alex guy. Not because he's won every race this year, not because he's got the coolest looking race car, but because Alex took the time at the beginning of the season or before to say, what's important to you? These are my values. We're a good fit. How could I make you achieve or help you achieve your goals that align with your own values? And that's what we're talking about, is identifying how we connect the dots in our marketplace. All right. So, pardon the pun, shifting gears back over to our real estate agent, right? You're out in the market and you're meeting people, potential clients. They want to sell their home. They want to buy a home, right? This is how I conduct my business as a salesperson. This is what I will deliver to you. This is how we will negotiate. This is my expectation. And I want to hear what your expectations are, because my values align with caring, right? Giving 100% of myself to do the best job possible for you in the transaction. Not for me, but for you. Because the person buying and selling is the customer, and the customer is who we need to take care of and be the most gracious person and give the most of ourselves. And I will tell you, not the most recent, but the listing that I got 2 months ago, month and a half ago, the reason why they allowed me to list and sell their property for them is because I live an abundant lifestyle, meaning that I'm happy to be there for them because I know that there's plenty of opportunities out there. And if they said no, it's okay. So they didn't get the pressure from me to say, sign, 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 sign. But also at the same time, I gave them the opportunity to tell me what their needs were and what was important to them and how our values aligned. By the way, that's exactly why I got the job, because our values aligned, because I was forthright with those values. And they came to me and they said, hey, Jim, we have an agent. We haven't signed with him, but we believe your values align more with who we are and what we want to achieve in a really stressful situation. And so we sat down and we talked about that. I confirmed what they suspected about me was accurate and honest, and I was going to deliver that all day long. And that's how I got that listing. That's how we take our values and apply them to the marketplace and connect those dots. We can do this all day long with just about any other business. Okay? But you have to understand, just like the gentleman I talked about with his wife, there's going to be sacrifice for these values. There's going to be hardships for these values because they don't always align with everybody. Anybody in this community, anybody that listens to my podcast, and anybody that's talked to me the last 13 years knows that my number one value is my faith. Number two is my family. if they're coming to me, they already got it. They've already heard it. Okay. And so what that's done is it eliminated some of those potentially uncomfortable situations, but it's also given me a clientele that's more aligned with who I am. And the expectation is if somebody comes to me, their expectation is that's what's important to me, right? So I need to always deliver on that. And that delivery of those values over a period of time has resulted in a business that continues to give back to me without that uncomfortable situation where it's like, hey, by the way, my daughter's getting baptized on Saturday. I can't work, right? And they're like, what are you talking about? They already know. Or I'm not surprising them with something I'm suggesting that I need to do that places that time as more important than the time they need from me. And so, what I want to encourage people to do as entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs is lead with your values in the marketplace. And I don't want to go as far as saying take a risk, but what I want to say is be confident in who you are, be confident in what's important to you, and lead with that so that people know exactly what they're getting from you and your business and what you're offering and what they can expect to get if they choose to work with you or buy your products or your services. You will never regret leading with those values. I remember back in 2014, 2015, Donald Trump was talking about running for office, right? And in the beginning, it was okay to put that on your Facebook, like, "Hey, I like Donald Trump," because at the time he was just the "you're fired," celebrity apprentice guy. But in a really short window, when people started attacking him, man, look out! You really had to make a decision, like, am I going to post this or not? Because I might get a whole bunch of haters. I decided at that moment that it didn't matter to me who liked or didn't like me. I was going to lead my business and my life what I felt was important to me based on my values, based on what I knew to be my own truths. I like to use Trump as an example because everybody in the world knows who he is. Everybody in the world knows that he's been attacked and that it's been a roller coaster up and down. I think he's widely accepted now. I think his approval rating is like 57% today. But I'll tell you right now, in 2015, it was very controversial. But I made the decision. And through making that decision, as an example, for the value of leading with your values, I've had the best business years of my life since then. And so for me, that's just a benchmark of time and something that happened in history where I can remember, hey, this is when I started really, really leading with my values. I dabbled in 2013 with more of my Christian faith on social media and, hey, prayers for your family, or hey, we're in the church, or things like that. But I wasn't all in until 2015, 2016. But I will tell you, I've never regretted it, first of all. And I've seen dramatic rewards for leading with my values because people that work with me have no question about who I am and why. And so what do we do from here, right? I think I've made the point. Well, where we go from here is I go back to the exercise that we've talked about many times on here, and that is, what are your values? And have you taken the time to align those values with the people around you, your wife, your parents, your sisters, your brothers, your best friend, your cousins, your neighbor, whomever is in your immediate circle that knows you, that you hold a level of accountability to, that you have collectively determined what those values are, and then assigning those values to your goals, because those goals will eventually determine your conduct in the marketplace with your potential customers for business. And I promise you that that will deliver 100% of the time the customers, the clients, the relationships that not only you deserve, but the ones that you want and you're willing to work with. Right? I guess you'd probably expect if a witchcraft, connoisseur business person came to me for some coaching, I'd probably say no. There wouldn't be a good fit, right? So there's some black, literally some black and white, right? You know, I lead with my values. That person's probably not going to come to me. And so therefore, I'm kind of cutting out the clutter of the people that are willing to work with me. So please consider that you've gone through that exercise. And I really mean it, whether you're an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, that you spend the time with the people around you to establish those values, because those are the people that are going to support you day in, day out, when it's hard, when it's easy, when you want to celebrate, when you're looking for new customers, or you're creating your messaging. Those are the people that are going to hold you accountable for that and be your support mechanisms. I would like to give a caveat that values do change in your life. They're not always static. Now, my first couple are probably always going to be static, God and family. The other ones might change, and that's okay. But make sure that you build that into your program and how you approach the marketplace and how you do things. Alex, you asked me before how I had success in off-road racing, how I was one of very few that retained actual cash sponsorships. It's for this reason. People knew who I was because of my values and how I conducted myself, and they could count on me time and time again. I'd like to say I won a lot more races than I did. I won enough, but that's not what kept me in the deal. It was the other side that kept me in the deal. Okay. And that's a really great point to make, because sponsors want to win races, but sponsors also want to be associated with people that have values and that they know that these people have integrity, and they don't have to worry about their brand, literally their name on your chest when you're out in the marketplace. So these values, this value perspective works across the board in any situation. So don't take it lightly, because it's probably the most important thing you can do in your business. When we talk about soft skills, this is a soft skill that most people have no clue about. And now that I've beat it in your head for the last 25 minutes, and we've talked about it a lot before, you will see that in the people around you, which will give you the competitive advantage. Heidi, I promise you, in real estate, if you have an abundant mentality, you will be successful in real estate long term. The ones that have a scarcity mentality in real estate are the ones that pressuring their clients to sell for a price that you're going to make the most commission, that gives you the contract that has the most opportunity, to sell the place, as opposed to asking the client what they need, what they're comfortable with, what makes most sense for them financially, right? Signing a deal with a commission rate that they're comfortable with, not the one that you think you expect because you're so great at your job, right? Maybe it's less than anybody else, but you recognize, hey, you know what? I'm kind of new to this. I'll take a smaller commission. I'm just thankful for the opportunity, because my values are gratitude. Same thing goes with the sponsorship, Alex. Maybe somebody's offering you a $500 check as opposed to the 5,000 you need, but hey, I'm grateful for the opportunity that you believe in me enough to write that check. Because I guarantee you, both that check and that home buyer and seller will move forward and either give you a referral, a bigger house, or a bigger sponsorship at some point based on how you treat them, and the smaller amount, or treat what they can do as equally as important as the next guy that can do more. So That's how we identify and connect our values to the marketplace. And by the way, I think that guy's probably going to find a job in Florida so that he can be there for his wife. If she were to call at 12:30 in the morning in distress, he'll be right there for her. Right? That's my prayer for him. I think that's where his head's at. I don't know. But don't put your values second, put them first. Rod, you want to weigh in?
Love to. First, before I dive in, did I hear you say that one of your daughters is getting baptized on Saturday?
Saturday, I think 3 o'clock, Canvas Church.
Darylyn?
Yep, no Reagan.
Reagan, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. That's a big deal. Anyway,
Mhm.
see, that's the other thing. Listening, right? That's important. One of my values is listening, right? To be a better listener. So um, that's awesome. So one thing I wanted to add here is it's when you're leading with your values, it's easier to walk away from a deal,
Yeah.
which will potentially be and probably likely be a bad deal, right? And that gets into that abundance mindset, right? But it's also the value mindset first. It's easier to walk away and say no. And then you don't have that hanging over your head that, oh, it got away or I missed it. There's no missing when you know that you're leading with your values. So that's that peace of mind. That's that you're going to be better the next day when you cross that one off and say, okay, that's one I didn't need. I've put that behind me and move forward. So it always keeps you looking ahead. So that's number one. And the second thing, and you alluded to this in a way that um, and I guess I want to emphasize it. There's power in alignment. When you are aligning your values with the values of your clients, it becomes more powerful. And I can illustrate that very easily in this word alone, referrals. When
Mhm.
you are aligning with other people with your values, you're not just establishing that relationship. You are by default connecting to all of the people in their circle. So there's power in that alignment. It's just like, have any of you ever seen the metronomes or the beads that go in circles? You know, they start off all random,
Yeah.
and the power that comes, they will all get in sync. And so when your circle's in alignment with other circles in like values, everything starts working. And it's just a power. It generates a power of its own. So keep that in mind. There's power in alignment. And the other thing is, you mentioned this, Jim, trust is important. Trust is very important. And the only way you can trust somebody is if your values align.
Mhm.
If your values don't align, the trust will not be there. So, yeah, you can work on building trust, but if you're building it on a relationship that's not based on values, it's not based on anything real. Because values, although they're intangible, are real. So, integrity in deeper relationships, I think it's absolutely critical. And Jim, we've been on this rant um, for years, and we can't talk about this enough. And it's more than just a soft skill. Let's call this a deep skill. Let's rename it. Values are the deep skills that are lacking in the marketplace today.
Yeah.
Deep skills, not just soft skills, deep skills. So, uh, great talk. I love the illustrations, the stories. They're always important. So, I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay. Alex, just checking in. Anything that we can help you with or anything that you want to bring up or comments from your side? Then I'm coming to you, Heidi. So go ahead and be ready.
Um, not not really. Just getting ready for a race this weekend, so I go back up to the garage. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, yeah, no, it's pretty much what you've said. Hit the nail on the head. And with the new company, I found a lot of been getting a lot of customers through word of mouth. And I to be fair, I kind of grew up that way. My dad had a company in our house. It was just he and my mom, and that was how he got most of his work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that follows you. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. So,
Alex, I want to give you a compliment. I get your newsletter. I see all the things that you're doing. You're doing all the work. Okay. And I'm really impressed with your ability to stay the course. I don't know what that looks like from a financial perspective for you. I know we can always use more. You're racing. Well, look, man, you're racing. You're doing the things that you said last year you wanted to do, and now you're doing them. Okay. So it takes time to get to that point where that thumbs down is a thumbs up,
mhm.
but you're putting in the effort. Okay. And that effort will come back to you at some point. There will be a tipping point for your effort. There's no guarantee when that is, but I want to encourage you not to slow down, to keep walking that path and to keep doing what you're doing and be cautious of the decisions that you make and the things that you say yes or no to. Sometimes we have to say yes to the stuff we don't want to do, but it gets us closer to what we really want, right? And I don't know what that is in your world. Maybe it's a bummer car that somebody wants fixed that isn't what you normally do, or parts that don't make a lot of money, to work on or sell, but yet it moves you closer and closer to the objective of what you want. But what I've seen from afar, right, weekly calls, that you're putting in the groundwork. So I don't want to take away from that compliment, giving it to you that you're putting in the groundwork. So thank you for giving us an example to see live in the work you're doing.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Heidi, let's talk about, you have a wellness fitness coaching business and you're transitioning into real estate. And I don't know, do you want to share with us what that looks like? Is it both things? Is it one or the other?
I would say that it's adding. It's adding.
Yes.
So both are going, and both will continue to go. So both will continue to, Fierce Grace Wellness will continue to prosper and grow to the end dream that I've got for it, and what the universe and the humanity needs. And then my real estate career will just be able to give me the most optimized life. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited for it. I'm excited to be of service to people and to do something I love. I've been a mortgage broker before. I love sales. I love people. I don't know if you know, but I have 3 clients that are in the Flathead Valley that I personally coached for over 2 years, each of them. And that performance in their health and wellness rolled over into their performance in the real estate industry, and they're top producers in the
Wow.
Flathead. So I'm really grateful for that. And I'm excited to join the ranks.
Yeah, well, it's awesome. And what better way to add value to your customers that you've coached, you've given them wellness, right? So you've built trust through your values, because I know you lead with that in
Yeah.
your business. And now it's like, hey, by the way, if I can help you with real estate, I'd love to do that as well, right? So
Absolutely.
I think it's a natural addition to your business.
Yeah.
Might propose some challenges based on schedules and stuff, but I'm confident that you can do it. And I love that you've recognized, some of the people that you've worked with here in Flathead Valley.
Yeah.
I know some of them. One of them put their house on the market on Friday and they already have an offer. So, it's like, okay, 3 days later, they're killing it.
They are.
But I'm excited for you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm a mom. I've raised 3 successful humans. So I'm really good at keeping people alive and getting them out there to launch and to do well. So I'm a mom first and foremost. And so that connection that you talked about, Rod, those circles, thank God. Thank God.
Mhm.
So I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be a mom and a wife, a human that knows the language of love, and that we're so loved, and that we can we can always choose to be forgiven and recover and do all these amazing things in our life, and to suit up and show up and to take
Yeah.
action. So I'm not too afraid. There's 24 hours in a day. Yeah, let's do it. I mean, if you can raise 3 kids up,
Yeah, you got more that you can handle.
yeah,
Well,
I mean, you do that and work and do everything. Hell, I don't have kids here anymore. So
Yeah.
let's go.
Let's
Let's go.
well, I also want to give you a compliment because you were asking me about brokerages and you're doing the homework.
Mhm.
You're doing the hard part. You're laying a foundation for your business. You've already told me that yes, I'm going to use all the tools we've learned here, and yes, to build out my real estate business. You're not just going, well, I've got all this foundation in, this one business. I don't really need it in the other. I know what I'm doing. Nope, you're doing all the foundational work in this other business, and I want to compliment you for that because it would be easy for you to be lazy and not do that, but you're not taking that route. And by the way, in a conversation that we had today, you were very specific in what your needs were and what you were looking for. And the only way, in my opinion, that you could do that is if you knew exactly what was important to you and your business model, right? So I want to compliment you for that. And I want that to also serve as an example to others. Just because you have the capacity to start a second business doesn't mean you shortcut the startup of that business, that you build the strong foundation, because you never know. That business might take off and surpass your first business. And if you don't have any foundation on it, it could crumble the second you start to find success. And so I believe through our discussions that you're not going to shortcut it, that you're doing all the work. So
No.
happy for you.
Yeah, and no, Jim, and thank you to you, Jim, and Rachel and Rod, because that's been the foundation. That's what I've learned from these coaching calls, is how to do it right and well, right? How to check those boxes. And that I'm super grateful for. So, because what we've learned in these coaching sessions is, as Rod said, that's foul thinking, delusional thinking. If you think that you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And so that was an aha moment for me, because in the progression of my health and wellness company, that's kind of the vibration that was heading on. But then with the move, that doesn't suit up, that doesn't work. So I've had to do exactly what's been taught. And with that, I've been able to reposition myself and go even get stronger and then go farther. So it's been awesome. I appreciate the coaching.
Well, and I also would like everybody to know that from a coaching perspective, right? Just because we coach doesn't mean that we don't have to put in the work. And I've been very transparent about real estate being new to me, and I want to be good at it. Yes, this is an added thing on top of my consulting, which is the primary source of my attention. But it doesn't mean I don't want to be good at real estate, right? And there's some foundational elements to that, which there is in every business. You guys can figure out what they are in yours. But before I got on this call, I was knocking on doors. Okay, so I don't know what anybody's perception of me and my level of success, but I was also knocking on doors for an hour. Got an open house tomorrow. And what do? What do they tell you to do in real estate? Go knock on the neighbors' doors and let them know, hey, I got an open house. Here's a flyer. Come on by. And by the way, here's my business card if you need anything, right? I could look at that as degrading, or I'm too good to go knock on doors, or I'll just mail them something. No, I'm getting out of my truck, putting on the flashers and walking up to the door and knocking, go, hey, hi, neighbor. Because I want to be successful, and because I understand from mentors in real estate how important knocking on doors is. And in the surveys that I've seen in the last 6 months about knocking on doors, it's like the main thing that nobody wants to do it. But it is actually one of the best things that you can do to build your business. Imagine that. Nobody wants to do it, but it's the best thing that you can do to build your business. And so I would encourage you and challenge you to find the door knocking in your business. Heidi, it's going to be easy for you because that's exactly what you need to do. Alex, find the door knocking in your business. If you're listening, whatever business you're in, find the door knocking, the most uncomfortable thing that you can be doing that's going to create the maximum results. And don't be afraid to do it. Okay. Like I said, I did it for an hour. I got 15 doors on one neighborhood and probably 8 more on another. So 23 doors in an hour, had 3 conversations, all 100% uncomfortable. All of them, right? I don't care. If that's what I got to do to be successful in this business and close the gap of success and learning, then that's what I'm going to do. And by the way, it's taken me 5 months to go knock on doors, but I'm there now. And I give you those numbers and I give you those times because I want you to know that just because we're the coaches doesn't mean we don't have our own challenges to overcome, and that we shouldn't have to do the foundational work if we want to add a new business to our lives. Find the doors in your business. You will find success by doing that. All right. Rod, closing thoughts. We'll wrap this up. Unless Heidi or Alex have challenges or questions for us, I'm happy to take those. But go ahead, Rod, and then we'll go from there.
I just want to say we've talked about this before, that whole get comfortable being uncomfortable never stops. Right? We never get to that point where we feel comfortable in every situation we get into. So, the challenge is there for everybody all the time.
Yep.
And it's one of those things. What is the challenge today? What is the challenge you're going to meet today? And I'll give you a quick example. At my morning workout at the UPS facility, they made a command decision based on some of the higher ups. The suit and ties came in and they made some decision that was really inane, right? It didn't make any sense, and it cost the comfort of some people in their jobs. And I had to remember that my place wasn't to go in there and tell them why they were wrong and why this decision was stupid. The hardest thing for me to do, when I'm looking, I'm an efficiency expert, right? I go in, I consult on stuff like this, and it's like, you guys have made a terrible decision. That wasn't my job. And one of the hardest things for me to do was to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
It really was. That's, because I want to go in there and, fix things and set things right, but it wasn't my place. And even that, sometimes know your boundaries, stay in your lane. And I could we could probably do a class on that, staying in your lane sometimes, because it's hard. But yeah, the work is there. The work is there for all of us to do. And again, I want to hat off to not only the members on the call tonight, but our other members as well. I see progress in every aspect of their lives, personal lives and business lives. And being able to rise to the challenges. It's kind of like, Heidi, you mentioned you don't have kids anymore. Well, Jim still has kids at home. I have a teenager, a granddaughter teenager living here at home. But you folks on this coaching call are my kids too. You've become family and you're like my kids. So, the same levels of accomplishment, when you say, oh, that's my kid, look what they've accomplished. We get that as coaches too. So we share in the frustrations. We know how hard it is out there, but it gives us extra charge when we see you guys hitting it, right? Really nailing it. So thanks for that. That's it.
Right on. All right, guys. Well, let's wrap it up from there. Heidi, stay on the phone, please. And I'll let the others go. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget, lead with your values and find your door knocking experience in your own business. So, all right. Talk soon.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.